Welcome back, everybody, to the Big Dreams, Great Teams podcast. I am so excited for today's episode. I have an incredible guest with me, Helen Wait. She is the founder of ActivOT, which is the world's first occupational therapy franchise business. She founded ActivOT in 2007 after the birth of her third child, with a vision to create a sustainable balance between raising her young family and the career and the profession that she is so passionate about. Over her next 5 years, she implemented processes and systems to achieve that balance and saw an opportunity to extend this flexibility and autonomy to other practitioners. So she franchised ActivOT in 2012. 12 years later, ActivOT now boasts over 60 franchisees, serving more than 8,000 clients across 5 Australian states, and it's not slowing down. Helen has been recognised for her leadership, her innovation in both allied health and franchising, and she's been named as a finalist in lots of awards and has won several more. I've invited Helen onto the podcast today to share a little bit about her business journey, the behind the scenes, and in particular, the amazing culture that she's created and her franchising journey. So a very big warm welcome to you, Helen. I'm so happy to have you here.
Well, thank you for having me, Paula. Wow, with an introduction like that.
I've got so much to ask you, and I'm so excited for this conversation. So let's start by sharing with everybody listening a little bit about your business journey. You started back in 2007, and you've got 65 practitioners, which is incredible. Tell us about all the things. What does your business look like? What do you do?
Wow. Well, I guess I help occupational therapists to have their own private practice. Having been a solo practitioner for many years, I knew all the pitfalls, but I also knew all the benefits. So rather than employing occupational therapists, I decided there actually had to be a better way. So developed this franchise model. I was actually inspired by my girlfriend Mel Mayello from Essential Beauty fame. I was talking to her one day about her business journey, and it's amazing what we can learn from other women in business and how we can use that to help ourselves move forwards. And she was telling me about the difficulties she had in terms of training beauty therapists, and then they just go and set up in competition with her because they just wanted to learn how to do it. And I'd had a similar experience in my previous private practice and realized OTs really did just want to learn how to have their own business. And I thought, wow, if it worked for her, perhaps that could work for me. And I looked into it at the time, and the state-based OT registration legislation wouldn't allow for it. But as soon as we moved over to APRA, which was national registration, bingo, away we could go. And that was the beginning of the ActivOT franchise journey.
Amazing. Wow. So 65 practitioners, that is a huge number and a significant achievement to do it via franchising and franchisees. So I'm really excited to dive into that. But before we dive into that side of the business, can you tell us about the head office team? So who do you have in your business actually supporting you to run the day-to-days of what is a big business?
Yes, I have 6 staff members. I have my business development manager, Holly. She is my right-hand woman, and she's absolutely incredible. She's right across everything in the whole business and can run it if and when I need to step out. And then I have Kimberly, who is my finance manager. So she manages the finances for the business, but also sets franchisees up and trains them in terms of how to manage their own finances within their franchise as well. And then I have the beautiful Elise, who looks after marketing and PR. So all of the stuff you see online and socials and all of the awards is all thanks to Elise. She works incredibly hard and is very passionate about what we do. Elise also meets with franchisees to address their unique marketing needs, especially as we've been moving into new territories, to make sure that she encourages them to develop their networks, because it's very much a relationship-based business. So it's all about developing networks and those relationships for referrals. And I have then the beautiful Tennille. She is our quality and compliance manager. It's pretty rare that you find someone that loves all things policy and procedure and compliance. Most of us would go, no, thank you, that's not my jam. But the grin on her face with anything like that is incredible. So, yeah, she's pretty amazing. So she does that for the franchise, but also with franchisees and helping them get their NDIS registration, for example, making sure that they're meeting all their ARPA requirements. Totally amazing. And then we also have our business managers. I have Annette, up in Queensland and Shez over in WA, and they manage all of the referrals and deal day to day with franchisees. They're always checking in on them. So I've always said to the girls, it's not about just a transactional interaction. We need to find out about our people and how they're traveling. So if you spend 5 or 10 minutes chatting on the phone about what they did on the weekend or, their sick grandfather, then absolutely that is key part of your job. I need to know, you need to know what's going on with our people, and they're the ones that generally have that direct interface. So
love that.
Yeah, so it's a big team. I call them my dream team because they are the most beautiful, values-aligned, inspiring women. There's no bitchiness. I think within a small business as well, everyone kind of needs to be a jack of all trades. So everyone kind of covers for each other. There's none of, oh, that's your job, that's not my job, that's not my role. Everyone just rolls up the sleeves and gets in and gets the job done, and we all support each other no matter what. If someone's, grandmother has died or mother-in-law has died and they need to step away, everyone else will just jump in and cover for them, which is such a beautiful atmosphere to have. Like, there's just such care and compassion.
Good on you. And you should be really proud of that environment that you've created, because it's definitely something that a lot of people, I think every entrepreneur, every business owner aspires to. So well done. And I also like the sound of, it sounds like it's a pretty lean and mighty team as well. So, you're covering a lot of bases there, a lot of different skills with marketing, a lot of specialities, I guess. So I think when you and I spoke before we were recording, a couple of weeks ago, we were chatting, I think you mentioned that you got all the way up to 20 franchisees on your own. So tell us, who was your first hire? And then tell us about that point when you were like, okay, I got to stop trying to do this on my own.
Yes, I had gotten to 20 franchisees all by myself. I was working ridiculous hours. I was a single mum of 3 boys who were all at school at that stage, working 16, 18-hour days, 7 days a week. I had no family supports, just trying to pull the whole lot together. And I ended up doing a leadership course called Lead ID, which was really more about mindset with the beautiful Tams and Simmons. We had literally put it out to the universe, and the universe spoke. She had 1 spot left on the course, and I didn't think I could afford to do the course. And she's like, well, I don't think you can afford not to. Like, she could see the path I was going down, complete and utter burnout, going to fall over. And it's like, let alone paying for the course, the time out. Yeah, it was, because that's lost earnings as well, because I was still consulting at the time to help pay the bills to build the franchise on what was left over. So I did that course. It was a 6-month process, and I actually, I had set myself a goal to have 20 franchisees by the end of 2020. But given the work I had done on myself, and finally, I guess, getting out of my own head and having the courage to back myself, I decided that I was going to employ a staff member. So Holly was the first one that came on board, followed very shortly after by Kim. In fact, I decided I wanted both of them. That's the entrepreneurial spirit in me. I never ever take no for an answer. So thankfully, it was COVID times, and Holly had been working for Flight Centre and had been stood down, so was looking for other employment and was sent my way through a very trusted girlfriend. And I met with Holly over lunch. We shared a pizza. It was that instant connection. I thought, wow, I want to work with this person. But I'd already promised that I'd meet up with Kim. So I said, I've got one other person I'm meeting with, and Holly was apparently saying, I hope she chooses me. I hope she chooses me. And of course, I met up with Kim, and Kim's amazing. And I went away from that going, I want both of them. I'm not going to take, one for an answer. I need both. As it turned out, Kim was still on maternity leave and wanting to come back to work a bit, in a few months' time. So I brought Holly on board part-time and said it may continue part-time for a while, because I was thinking as we grow, then I could have Kim part-time. But as it turned out, Holly was such an asset, and the team continued to grow rapidly. And Holly was full-time just before Kim started part-time. But before I brought them both on board, I actually took both of them out to lunch together so I could see how they would get along and how comfortable that was. And it was the most beautiful lunch, and we still talk about that right at the beginning. So I think it's really important to ensure your personalities get along and the key values are there. But yeah, it made such a difference.
Amazing. And I love that your first hire, so Holly being the BDM and Kim being the finance team member, I love that your first hire supported you to focus on growth and sales. And, correct me if I'm wrong, I think sometimes when we're spending that money for the first time, and it's so scary when we can link it to, okay, well, if you're good at this, you can help more money come in the door. It's quite a nice way for our brain to feel safe. Is that sort of part of the rationale?
I just knew it was beyond me and I needed people with really high level skills. I didn't need just an admin person that was a bit of a robot. I am a firm believer of hiring intelligent people and having them tell you what needs to be done. Whilst I was happy to mentor these wonderful women in terms of franchising and occupational therapy, I needed people to actually have really, really good skills, like good people skills, good finance skills. That was crucial. Especially the BDM, they're the face of the business. They're out there having to build relationships. So I needed someone with high EQ as well as high IQ. You don't want a robot in that sort of position.
I love that. Thank you for sharing and clarifying that. You weren't looking for somebody junior to sort of help you out in an administrative way or an assistant way. You were hiring in skill to really add that skill to the business, which clearly helped you leap forward. So that's amazing. Let's chat now about the decision to franchise. A few moments ago, you sort of said, I weighed it up against employing people and I'd had an experience of hiring people in and them turning into competitors. Tell us about the other, I guess, the things that you weighed up and what made it just feel entirely right for you.
I think being a solo practitioner for as many years as I had, I also knew the pitfalls, like where do you turn to for professional support? And we're talking pre-NDIS, so there was a limited number of particularly occupational therapists in private practice because the funding sources weren't necessarily out there. So where would you go to for professional support? All the other people in private practice are your competitors, so they're not going to share their professional knowledge with you. Things like electronic client record systems, once again, there's many more opportunities for that now. Back then, it was so cost prohibitive. As a solo practitioner, there's no way I could have even contemplated something like that. There weren't any options out there. The other thing was like, your marketing. Like to have a website as a solo practitioner back in the day, it was costing thousands of dollars to get a website done. Things have changed. The landscape's definitely changed, but I think the principles remain the same. And then how do you keep up with program changes and policy changes and all the compliance side of things? Because once again, that is so much more onerous now than it was, say, 15 years ago. It makes such a difference. So my idea was a pooling of resources for values-aligned therapists. I didn't want those that have got, dollar signs in their eyes trying to jump onto a gravy train. I wanted OTs who are really, really passionate about making a difference in people's lives, aiming for best practice, and then supporting them. Because I always say I don't ever aim to be the biggest provider of OT services. I aim to be the best. And that's by getting the best, most passionate OTs on board and giving them wings to fly. And I think that's how we will achieve it. And that's always been my philosophy as we've gone through. And it's certainly serving me well.
Love that. So rather than even growing from that place of who do I need to grow, it's how can we do this together and what can I offer these people who are sitting out there trying to do a similar thing to me?
Yes, definitely.
Love that. So I think it's very fair to say that you're a very successful entrepreneur and, I think it's amazing and I'm sure that you're very proud of yourself. I hope you are. Growing a business to, 70 plus people, I'm wondering if there are stages that you've noticed as you look back, whether it's sort of, to get us, you've talked about, 0 to 20, bringing in some people. What was the next big kind of leap and what have you had to significantly change about yourself or the business or the way you were doing things at each of those kind of stages that feel like they stand out?
I think the initial stage was just trying to refine the model and get my head around it, keeping in mind that I'd set this model up well outside of the franchising community. Like the Franchise Council of Australia didn't even know I existed and I had 20 franchisees. They're like, whoa. So I'd purposely done it outside of any other sorts of models because it needed to work for occupational therapy. And when I first tried to set this model up, I spoke to some franchise consultants and it became really, really clear and evident, even though they were successful franchisors in their own right, they had no idea about occupational therapy and how it would work within this industry because franchising in healthcare is so rare. And initially it was very slow. I'd gone through, a personal journey of a marriage breakdown and nearly dying with an autoimmune condition and, being a single mum of 3 boys. I had to take it quite slowly, but then I realized burnout, this is getting bigger than me. I also then realized the potential. So the next phase, once I finally got the courage to back myself and put staff members on to actually help me, the focus actually wasn't on growth. And I know that might seem a bit counterintuitive. The focus was on mentoring these staff members so that they actually understood the business, fully understood the values, understood the culture. And I started with the culture first, and I started investing in my people. And it was only then that I knew we could actually grow. There's no point in bringing more people on board if you don't have the foundations. So it's in business, rarely is it linear. It's not just growth, growth, growth. You do go in stages, and you have to continue to lay foundations by which you can then spring to the next level. We stop every 6 months to do business planning. So we reflect on all of our achievements, and we reflect on the direction we're heading in and how we're going to achieve that to make sure everyone's really, really clear. And our business plan is on a single A4 piece of paper. And when we go back and reflect, people go, I didn't look at it since last time. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. But because we do it semi-frequently, every 6 months, as we go through it, it's like tick, 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 tick. And if the things that aren't ticked, it's like, yes, we've made a good start on that. We've had a few hiccups along the way, or that is still work in progress, and it was never going to be completed within that time frame, but it's still so relevant, high priority, it needs to be on the forms. And that's how I guess I keep the team engaged so that they're well aware of where we're going. But we lay foundations, we grow, and we have to keep up with the changing landscape. There's so much changing within disability services, within aged care services. Even within the school arena, there's so many changes, and it's about keeping up with those.
Does your head office team feel very different supporting 20 franchisees versus 65 now? Or the way you operate, does that feel very different?
Oh, definitely. I've had to continue to step back and empower my team, and that can be really scary to let go, but you have to have trust. If you don't have trust in your people, they shouldn't be on your team. And I've also had to get really, really comfortable with being surrounded by people who are actually better at doing things than I am. Like, you look at them and you just go, wow, you're amazing. I couldn't do that even if I tried. And you have to learn to get comfortable with that. Because it's not about me, it's not about ego, it's not about limiting others to fit within my parameters, it's about giving them wings to fly. And if I support them and they can do an amazing job and they're on board with the vision, we're going to go way further than me trying to control everything. I think sometimes people think leadership is management and controlling everything, and, almost like having robots work for you. My team often tell me what needs to happen, and we should do this and we should do that. And I make sure it's a really safe space that they can do that. And if I think something's not right, I may say so, but even then, not always, because they need to learn themselves, and maybe I'm not right and maybe it will work. And if we make mistakes or things don't go to plan, it actually doesn't matter. It's all key learnings by which we grow and move forwards from.
Wow. I think what I just heard is, I know I don't need to try to be the smartest person in the room.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And just even that, that mindset or that thought process is, I thought that sounds wrong to me. I don't even need to say anything. Let's just see where this goes. Love it.
Yep.
I think it's fair to say every business owner listening wants to have that sort of team. So what have you learnt about hiring, or the process of interviewing and hiring, to get to this place?
I don't actually ever interview, and I don't ever plan to interview, which I know might sound a bit weird as well, but I just want to get to know the person, who they are, who they really are. One of the first questions I'll always ask people is, what makes your heart sing? I want people to tell me what makes them happy, because I want them to be happy in their role within activity. And you can't make a square peg fit into a round hole. It doesn't work. So I need to get to know the person and who the person is. For me, I think gone are the days where I interview you and I get to decide whether you fit with me. Whether it's my employees or my franchisees, I get to know the person, and it has to be a win-win for both of us. It has to be a good fit for me, and I have to be a good fit for them. And if I'm not a good fit for them, I'm not going to sell to them and encourage them to come on board, because that's not going to do anyone any favors. It's just going to waste time and resources in the long run. So it's a two-way thing, and it's very much an equal footing, as opposed to, I think, the traditional hires where I'm in the position of power and I'll choose you and I won't choose you. I don't operate like that. We're all equal. I look at my people holistically. I look at you in your life. What are you looking to achieve in your life? I met with a prospective franchisee just last week who's interested in the franchise, but is also looking to buy a house. And I'm like, my best advice to you is go and get your house sorted first. Being self-employed with your financials, it's going to put pressure on you. You're not going to achieve that dream. It's going to be frustrating. Go and get your house sorted first. And they're just looking at me. It's like, I'm putting myself in your shoes and working out what is actually best for you, because I firmly believe we need to do the right thing by people.
So have you had to learn some of this the hard way? Like, have you sort of, like everybody, most entrepreneurs, made a few hiring blips along the way and thought, okay, I didn't see that, or I didn't see that?
Yes, I absolutely have. You think someone's the right value set, but they're not, or people purport to be someone that they're not. I'd come from a very, very narcissistic environment. That was my point of reference. And it took me a long time to realize that that wasn't normal and I needed to step outside of that. And then it does make you second guess yourself. So I haven't always got it right, and I've had to send people on their way. I've always done that with kindness, because once again, it's not a win for them. It's not a win for me. So very challenging. It's all key learnings though. And that's how we grow and develop.
Absolutely. Because I think there's a real risk for people listening thinking, oh, goody, I don't need to interview. I can just go and, have lunch and get to know the person. And I think that that's obviously an amazing process that you have. And I think that there's still a requirement, or I'm curious to hear whether you think, well, how do you make sure that you're not hiring the person who says they can do the BDM, but they can't, or says that they can do the social media, but they can't, or they say they've got the skill, etc. So, is there a way around that that's not interviewing in your mind, that you're also assuring yourself you've got the goods?
I think it's still also important to check with referees, but even then you don't always get it right. There was one in particular I checked with referees who spoke really, really highly of this person, but it turned out to be a bit of a disaster because the values weren't aligned. So I think there's still a value in checking with referees. My big thing is you can teach anyone the skills that they need, and I'm a firm believer in investing in my people, but you can't teach someone a value set. If someone's got the right value set and they're passionate and they see the vision, I can teach them the rest. I can teach them the skills. They can do a course, they can be mentored. You can't teach someone a value set. So I start with the values always.
So for you, you're absolutely clear. And I think that probably links into the amazing culture that you've built in your business, which I'd love to start to chat about. One of the things I know that you're very proud of and your business is known for is the amazing culture, which frankly is for many businesses difficult to have and hold at that scale, 70 plus people. So you've talked so much about values. Let's continue that conversation. How have you created an amazing culture, and one that truly represents the brand the way you want it to be represented?
I think it all starts with the leadership, and then it's all started with the recruitment. So we've got that dream team who share those values and live those values. It's not just lip service. And then as part of our business planning, we are always talking about how can we make sure that those values filter through to each of the franchisees. I never want the franchisees to feel like they're just a number, because they are all part of the Activity family. We care about each and every one of them. And it's really difficult for me to have a close, direct relationship with 65 franchisees. But, having 6 staff members as well, they can, the business managers that are talking to them about, referrals or phone calls that come through, trying to access these franchisees, they take the time. They actually build with the link with that, which is really important. And I guess we spend a lot of time early in the journey with our franchisees to get to know them. Any new person that starts will be taken out for lunch or dinner as a welcome. They have one-on-one meetings with the dream team over a period of months in terms of getting them set up, checking in and seeing how they're going, responding to any of their needs. It's not a cookie cutter approach that we have in the franchise as well. Like, we bring a franchisee on board if we can be confident they will be successful in their private practice, but they're a unique individual. So I almost feel like I'm the OT for the OTs, and we will give them whatever they need to succeed, whatever success looks like to them. So we get them to do a business plan to see where their goals are and how they want this business to serve them in their whole life, because there has to be that compatibility there. They don't want to become a slave to their business. It's like, what does this need to look like for you to have that sense of professional satisfaction. How much money do you need to earn? How do you want that to fit into your lifestyle? And in us knowing that, we can support them in that. But we can also fill in the gaps in their knowledge. Like, some might be quite fine on the financial side of things. Some might need support more in the professional or the processes, but then some might need assistance with financial, and it's whatever they need to succeed that we provide them with. So it's not just a one size fits all. And I think realistically, I've done that even with the management dream team. Like, Tennille started as a business manager. Yeah, she did an okay job, not complaining. She stepped into the BDM role when Holly was on leave. And once again, she did an okay job. But it was only once I'd really gotten to know her, and every time I talked about anything to do with policy and procedure and compliance, I'd see her just light up. And it's like, that is her jam. That is what makes her heart sing. So I then created a role within the business. And I'm like, no, I'm not going to advertise it. That's yours if you want it. She's so, so happy. I think the role of a leader is to recognize the skills and the attributes of your people and get them to do what makes their heart sing. And it's my job to fill in the gaps. So once again, gone are the days where I think this is the position description and that's what you need to do. Do all the stuff that you love doing. I'll take all the other bits that are challenging for you or you don't like, and I'll sort out. That's my problem, to sort out how that gets done, because then people are happy doing what they're doing.
I guess the knock-on effect is they're happy to help out when someone has to step out, lean into other people's roles when they need to, et cetera, because I guess their energy is so high. It's not being wasted on those jobs that they don't want to be doing, and building up.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I've heard are your secrets to your amazing culture is that you're so clear on your values. So firstly, you're clear on, what do you want the value of the organization to be? And then you hire specifically to that, both in your dream team and when you're selecting franchisees. I've also heard you saying that you want to get to know the individual, and you see part of your role is to support the individual, again, if they're on the dream team or if they're a franchisee, to achieve their life goals. And I've also heard you say that you see the role of a leader is to support your team to do the stuff they love and to solve for the rest. Is there anything that we've missed out as far as, the little things that you're doing on a day-to-day basis or your business is doing to have this amazing culture?
I think it's just important to make sure that they're seen and to keep getting to know them on a day-to-day basis, to know what's really going on in their life. They might have a sick child, they might have a sick relative, they might, have a friend getting married. And it's really important. I don't believe, to be this stuffy professional. I think we need to look at people holistically and to include them wholly in that, because sometimes people will get distracted at work through to what's going on in their actual life. We're humans after all, and that's okay if you know what's going on and people feel like it's a safe place to speak about that and talk about that, and then they can be supported through that. I think there's give and take. They support me and I support them, and there's no tit for tat. We're humans first and foremost, and I prefer to do business that way. And I know that's probably a bit different and a bit weird, but that's who we are.
And it's working for you. So yay, keep doing it. Oh, Helen, thank you so much. I feel like you've shared so much, and it's been really beautiful to hear your take on leadership, your take on hiring, and how, you've gotten to where you are. To wrap up, what would you say are your top 3, business and team lessons from your journey that you'd love to share with every small business owner listening?
I think for me, the first one was to have the courage to back myself. Stop listening to that itty bitty shitty committee that is in our heads, because let's face it, particularly as women, we've got those mean girls, those voices. Stop listening to those. Have the courage to back yourself. Follow your instincts. Instincts are there for a reason. I think that is just so important, and that's probably the 2 key things that I wish that I'd known sooner and had the courage to do sooner, because I would have been much further along in my journey. I think the only other one is to get comfortable with being uncomfortable. You don't have to be the smartest person in the room. Respect and treasure your people. And if you don't trust them, they shouldn't be on your team. So they say that you're the product of the 5 people you spend the most time with. So at work, I'm the product of the 5 people I spend the most time with. You need to be inspired by them. If not, you're just being imprisoned by them. You're in a cage. So make sure you're inspired by the people you surround yourself with. Together, we can go further. Together, we are stronger. And the proof's in the pudding with Activity. I look at how far it's come. I got to 20 by myself at the beginning of 2020. We're 4 years on and we've got 65 franchisees thanks to these amazing women. There's no way I could have ever done that myself. I'm just truly grateful. I am. I do practice gratitude every single day.
Oh, love that so much. So what's next for you and Activity?
I think we've spent a bit of time laying some foundations. It's been a really challenging landscape with all the changes with NDIS. It's been a challenging time with the cost of living crisis and high interest rates. We have focused on laying more foundations by which to grow. I'm really keen to continue to grow interstate. We've got, a small team in WA, a small team in Sydney and a small team in Victoria. It's really important to grow those teams so that we've got little micro communities within the franchise as well. We've got a lot to offer. I'd also like to get the message out there for rural and regional OTs. This model really supports them and will give them access to so many resources that they wouldn't even dream is possible in the locations where they are. So I think my biggest challenge is just getting the message out there to OTs, and I quite often get, oh, it sounds too good to be true. Where's the catch? There is no catch. This is what it is. And I always say to people, just as much as I check your referees, you get to check mine. Go and talk to any franchisee. They'll be more than happy to speak to you and tell you what it is from their perspective. And they are my referees. And I think that's only fair.
Love that. Well, where can anybody listening, maybe they know an OT, maybe they are an OT themselves, where can anybody listening reach out, connect with you and learn some more?
I'd say go to our website, so www.activity.com.au. There's a lot of information on there about the franchise, about the services that we provide. All of the franchisees' contact details are there, so who knows, if you're an OT, there may well be someone there that you know. OT world is not that big in Australia. And also follow on socials, contact me on LinkedIn, or you can always email directly to me, helen@activity.com.au.
Amazing. Well, I'll pop all that information in the show notes. So thank you so much for your beautiful time today. I know everybody listening will have learnt something and valued your wisdom as much as I have. So thank you so much for today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Paula. It's been an absolute pleasure.